There's one thing that I've been thinking about. Something I can't seem to put my finger on. Recently, my world has been consumed by editing, filming, and posting. The cycle repeats over and over like clockwork. And that's when it hit me. What is an artist without their tools? More importantly, how do the tools they use shape the way they create? And that's where this story begins, with a plan to meet two artists. The criteria was simple and a little chaotic. Each artist had to be masters of their craft. But not only that, they had to make physical, hands-on art. Art that we can feel, see, and touch. And finally, each artist had to get a little messy. I wanted artists that weren't afraid to push the boundaries, let their creativity run a little wild. So with all that being said, let me introduce you to our artists. First up, Taya, a ceramicist based out of New York City. Taya finds inspiration through food, cultures, and art. With an eye for detail, Taya has the ability to shape simple clay into both striking abstract pieces and beautifully crafted functional pieces. But it doesn't stop there. Let me introduce you to DJ Javier, a painter and a designer based in Southern California. But not only that, DJ specializes in, well, literally everything. His work usually displays raw creativity and cultural storytelling. And this is where our story gets a little more interesting. All of this started with a single email, with an invitation to try something new. The Nikon Z8. This is the Nikon Z8, a lightweight full-frame mirrorless camera that not only excels in video, but also photos. It's a tool that transforms my vision into reality. Every frame feels cinematic. Every shot feels intentional. The Z8 isn't just capturing moments, it's elevating them, allowing me the ability to shoot an N-log to curate the colors I want every single time. That's right. There's one more character to the story. Andrew, the photographer. In 2015, I took my first photo. I immediately fell in love with the art form. I continued, eventually discovering my style, scenic minimalism. That led me to experiment, pushing into new creative spaces. And over time, those experiments evolved into filmmaking. And that brings us back to this video, which is made possible by Nikon. I arrived in New York with two questions that had formed during my travels. The first, do you need good equipment to make good art? The second, how can new tools shape your creativity? Before meeting with Taya, I wanted to do some research at the Museum of Modern Art, see how art progressed through the years. One specific thing that caught our attention was that the closer we got to modern day art, the less vibrant it was, almost as if it was lifeless. It was as if the artists with less resources relied on something different for their inspiration, whereas modern day artists had more to use, yet it felt more minimal. We wandered through the museum until we stumbled upon a time capsule, an exhibit showcasing creative projects through the years so transformative that we no longer even recognize them as creative. Yet they shaped our lives, and they were simple tools. The next morning, I headed to Brooklyn to meet with Taya. I was eager to see her creative process. As I arrived, I noticed her tools had completely contrasted mine. Instead of a camera, she had water. Instead of a computer, she had a wheel. Her tools were simple: a sponge, a ruler, and her hands. As I watched Taya, I began to notice how familiar she was with her tools. They were an extension not only of her, but as well as the art. And all of this got me thinking to when I was younger. Art felt simple: a paintbrush, a canvas, a pair of hands eager to create. The tools were basic, familiar, direct, but over time, they changed. And maybe they changed us. Curiosity was our main driver, fueled with ideas curated around mixing and matching. We created for ourselves without any external pressure. I headed to California with what seemed like more questions than answers. The history and progression of art has been studied for years. But what fascinates me is how artists with limited tools created such masterpieces. Whereas now, I feel like for myself, the endless options have created a sort of paralysis. A question arose: do limited tools help you create more freely? By the age of 27, DJ had established a significant presence in the art world, with his work featured by global brands and displayed on walls from Los Angeles to New York City. With a unique and distinguishable style, I was curious, what tools does someone use to work with some of the biggest names?
But a lot of these are like left over from murals, stuff like, I like using this. This is a lid from like a thing that like a paint bucket that I use that I just like using it as like my palette. These are from cinnamon rolls.
Those are like paint holders?
Yeah. Just the texture sponges that like, I mean, they're like super cheap. It's like, they're just cheap sponges.
And that was it. The icing on the cake. Simple tools, simple techniques, amazing results. DJ had mastered the art of recycling his tools, and in doing so, they became a part of his style. From the brushes to the sponges, each tool adding a layer to his distinct style. So, how do tools shape the way we create? For some, it curates their style. For others, it guides them, like a teacher. But what about me? It was time to take a closer look at my process. Which brings me to the creation of this video, an experiment of sorts. This project was designed to remove me from my comfort zone, expand my tools, and see what comes from it. My companion, the Nikon Z8. New York tested my ability to storytell, create a narrative in only a few hours. My subject was Taya, my pen, the Z8. Taya taught us the importance of becoming familiar with our instruments, the correlation between perfecting our art and growing connected with our tools. And that led us to California, which would test my ability to adapt. Our original goal was to go to Japan, yet like any project, a few things didn't go to plan. So we got connected with DJ. DJ reminded us all that our tools don't define our work. It's our minds and our ability to create with what we have. Overall, this experiment left me with a piece of work I can say I'm proud of. Art doesn't need us to be perfect or have the tools everyone else has. It beckons us to experiment, to try new things, to take a step into the unknown. So I guess what I'm trying to say is experiment with new tools and grow familiar with trusted ones. And overall, learn to enjoy the process.
So bumpy. I got this.
I'm gonna be faster too. First up, Taya. So you can look at the thing and then maybe look for like 2 or 3 seconds and then look back at the camera and then I'll give a thumbs up and then you walk back.
Flat and squared off, and one is this round. And this one is like a round, so it's like pointed. And this is like it's like flat but rounded, which like goes well with like how I like to draw, which is like it makes the end of all my